we are stressed out. We get taught to be stressed out. Our society is just stressed out. Everybody walks around stressed out. As a business owner, it's like a badge of honor. How are things going? Oh man, it's crazy. Like it's so busy. I got no time. I'm just working. It's not profit and thrive. It's just, go for, be so focused and just go for the money and just go for the goals and go for the accolades, but you're not thriving in your life. And if you find yourself getting totally overwhelmed in any moment, like let's say you're just in between tasks, right? You move from one thing to the next thing, you're in your email and you just feel that feeling come over you of like, what should I do next? I don't even know. Like, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. You're just like constantly stressed out and you feel burnt out. I'm trying to show you that there's a different way to go about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Moving Mastery Podcast. I'm Massaro. I've got my main man, Chris, with me here today, and we are still in lockdown. We're at home. Chris is at home. I'm at home. We're kind of talking right here through Zoom. What's happening, Chris?
Hey, how's it going? We're still doing it. We're still Zooming.
We're still Zooming. So those of you that maybe are just joining us or haven't seen, the past several episodes or listened to the past several episodes, we've been kind of having a new format where Chris is bringing in questions from the audience. I don't know what these questions are, and he's dropping them, and we're rolling with it. So let's jump into it today. You feeling all right, Chris? You good today?
I'm feeling good, and I got a good question for you this week. I think you're going to really like this one. It came in through our Facebook this time. This was a guy who had attended one of the previous seminars and had taken some really great, valuable lessons from that seminar, and has been having trouble sort of ironing out the details to some of the stuff you taught. So I'm gonna read you the question here. It says, I attended your Moving Mastery Summit seminar, and I was really inspired by your talk on committing to mastery and not being a dabbler. So I've been committed to mastery, and I've been working on improving my business and not being a dabbler, but I'm getting overwhelmed with all the stuff that I want to implement, and I just feel like I'll never get it all done. Do you have any advice for me?
Yeah. All right. You're getting good at this. You're getting good at picking the ones.
I like this one.
Yeah. So just to put that all in context, right? That was, the discussion of mastery, committing to mastery versus being a dabbler, for those who weren't there, for those that didn't hear it. Essentially, when you look at what you want to accomplish in your business and you look at what you want to accomplish in your life, you've got to be able to commit to mastery. And mastery is not, you're perfect in everything that you do, right? Mastery is a journey, right? You'll never get to a place where you are a master, right? It's an evolution of you as a person, you as a business person, but committing to mastery is the surefire way to make sure that you succeed, right? Because what a lot of people will do is they'll be a dabbler, right? They will either get into a business without the clear intent of like, hey, I'm going to make this thing work, whatever I need to do. If other people are making it happen, I'm going to make it happen. And, they won't commit to implementing processes fully. They'll dabble with some stuff, they'll watch a few YouTube videos or, look for a few quick hacks, implement those hacks. And then if they don't work, they're on to the next thing, right? They're kind of dabbling in different areas, maybe even dabbling in different businesses. And so the fact that he committed to mastery, I think pretty much you remember, everybody there was like, they're committed, because I was discussing what the road to mastery and what committing to that path really does for you as a person, does for you with your business, and just overall how it makes an impact on your life. So, and now he's overwhelmed, right? Now he's like, I've got too much to implement, and what do you say? Feel like I'm never going to get it done. Or
yeah, he said, I've been working on improving my business and not being a dabbler, but I'm getting overwhelmed with all the stuff I want to implement, and I feel like I just feel like I'll never get it done.
Yeah, overwhelmed. I'm just making notes.
Yeah.
Well, first thing is accept the fact that you'll never get it all done, right? Yeah, so I don't know when he says all, I don't know what he means. I'm sure there's more than just what he took away from the seminar. I'm sure there's, other things he's looking to do in his business and improvements that he's looking to make. And accepting the fact that you'll never get it all done is one of the biggest things you can do to give yourself a break from just, constantly being on yourself. I need to do this. I should be doing that. I need to be doing this. I should be doing that. That stuff could just beat you down. And that was me for a long time, right? Until I finally realized, like, my to-do list keeps growing and my project list keeps growing faster than I could get the stuff done. And, a lot of times, especially with entrepreneurs, it's your mind is always working, looking for that better way, right? There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And then when you look for it and you find it, you're like, wow, there is a better way, but there's a lot of stuff here. And, it's coming to a 3-day seminar with us, and, it's a lot in 3 days. It's full immersion for 3 days. So you leave there with a lot of stuff. So where maybe before you didn't have all those thoughts and things you could do to improve, now you see them, your mind attaches to the outcome and is like, yeah, I want that. I could see clearly what that's going to bring to me and my business. And it wants to solve that as quick as possible, right? It's like, it wants to take it and implement it and just get it all done immediately. And, I guess that's, there's the gift and the curse of learning systems and learning from how people have done it before, right? Whereas doing things the hard way with trial and error, you kind of like try something, it doesn't, it's definitely more painful to do trial and error than to go and get all the information that you need to apply and then just figure out how to prioritize it, how to implement it, how to accept the fact that you're just not going to get it all done.
I see these people when they leave the seminar after day 3 and they've just been, given all of this information. They've got their workbook that's, 100 something pages, and they're just so fired up and they're like going back to the office ready to just, implement everything. But I could see how, coming up with a way to sort of, what do? You come up with a process to kind of start implementing things in a systemized way. When you go back to the office after the seminar, or when you have a great idea that you want to implement, what's the first step? Like, how do you go about making it happen?
You've got to have like like a little system for yourself on how you do it, right? But that system, the basis of that system needs to be the acceptance of you'll never get it all done. And the reason I say that is not because you're not an achiever, right? Most people that we talk to are overachievers, right? They're putting in the extra hours. They're doing the extra work. And, so it's not about like, you're never going to get it all done because you're not capable of getting it all done. It's that list is going to continue to grow, right? If you're creating constantly and you're thinking of new ways and your mind is focused on there's got to be a better way, and you have a little system of like, okay, you're keeping track of it. You got a notebook of all the ideas you want to implement. You've got a note in your phone. You've got a project management tool. You got a task list, whatever, right? Wherever you're keeping track of it, you've got this stuff. And as you evolve in business and as things unfold for you that you didn't see previously, you're going to get new ideas, right? You're going to have new strategies you want to implement. And so it's a matter of being able to not get overwhelmed with taking too much information in, because you want to get all the information you can, right? You want to take it all in. And then you just need a process for like, okay, how do I take this and slowly start to implement it? And I just want to keep going back to the fact that you first have to relieve yourself of the pressure by just saying like, look, I'm never going to get it all done. The reason you're never going to get it all done is not because, again, you can't do it all. It's because some of that stuff might become unimportant as you continue to get one thing done after the other, because you can only do one thing at a time.
I see.
You can only do one thing at a time effectively, right? So, if you've got a list of 20 things, 30 things that you want to do in your business, well, maybe you get the first 5 done and then it changes the way you look at it, right? It's kind of, if you're climbing mountains and you don't know where you're going, you get to the top of one peak, then you could see clearly what's kind of out in front of you, and then you could decide, okay, well, where I thought I wanted to go maybe there's a different path for me.
Yeah, so I see. So it evolves. Things can change as you're working your way through all of these things you want to implement. It reminds me. I had a teacher once tell me that it's almost like when you're flying in a plane, and you think you just get in the plane and go from point A to point B, but during the journey, there's all kinds of little microscopic course corrections that happen along the way to keep you on the flight plan. And if you didn't make those small little adjustments, you could end up being way off course by the time you get to the end.
Yeah, but that's absolutely right. But you have a destination. You know where your destination is, right? And so we talked about it a few episodes back, and don't just build a business, build a life. And that, if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that episode, because all this stuff that he wants to do in his business should be based on where he wants to go in his life, right? And so, a lot of this, overwhelm, like there's a lot of information out there these days, right? There's social media, there's podcasts, there's people in your face constantly sharing advice.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times it contradicts somebody else, and, you're like, okay, there's this way to do it, but then there's that way to do it. Which way is the right way? Right. So then that gets in the mix too. It's not always what to do exactly, because if you have the step-by-step and you just go and implement it, like, they come to the seminar or they're in one of the courses, they just follow those steps. Right. But what happens is you talk to other people, you hear what other companies are doing, right? You get, somebody kind of says, hey, this works for us. We're doing this, we're doing that. And it makes you start to feel like, wow, I should be doing that, or I should be doing this. And then it takes you off track of your flight path, right? Like where you were really headed. And before you know it, you keep doing these course corrections that, are random, right? Like dabbler stuff, they're random. And you run out of fuel before you get to where you need to go. Right? And you get burnt out.
So are you saying that even though you're going to make some course corrections, do you need to have an exact plan? Like sometimes is it okay to just kind of like have an idea and start working towards it, even though you may not know exactly, what needs to happen to get there? I mean, kind of learning.
Yeah, you're never going to know all the steps that need to happen. You have to know where you're headed, right? Or at least an idea of where you want to go in your life, and start taking the best next actions you can take, right?
Yeah.
And then, have faith that the rest is going to unfold for you as you move forward, right? Like as you're driving through the dark and the fog, and your headlights can only let you see 3-6 feet ahead of you. You just got to know that, as you continue to move forward, more and more will be revealed to you, and you'll be able to see more of where you're going. So let's talk about his big list that he feels like he's never going to get done.
Yeah.
Right. So, basically what you want to do is you want to take that list, right? Whatever it is, right? We've all got a list of things we want to do, whether we sit down today and just write out a list, or we have an ongoing list that we keep, and start to look at, okay, first of all, what are my goals? Like, where do I want to go in my life in the next 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, right? Back at, you look at 1 year, you say, okay, the next year, if my goal is to do X, whatever that might be, right? Maybe it's my goal is to double my business. My goal is to take home $400,000 a year for myself. My goal is to, open that second location. Whatever it is, right? Whatever that like your big goal that gets you fired up, that gets you motivated, and then start breaking that down into what's going to make the biggest impact, and realize that first thing you need to do is, let's back up a minute. Let's back up a little bit. So you want to make sure, by the way, guys, this is all like off the cuff. Like, this isn't a lesson that I had prepared. So I realized I missed a step. We need to first fine tune the fundamentals, right? Fine tune the fundamentals. So in the moving business, there's 5 fundamentals that everything you do in your business falls under these 5 fundamentals. And they're lead generation, booking moves, servicing moves, customer service or making your customers raving fans, and then accounting and reporting, right?
Okay.
Everything falls in those. So it's like you've got all this new stuff you want to do. First, take that list. So let's say he's got a list from the seminar or whatever else, right? His ongoing list of things that he wants to improve. Okay, grab everything that falls into those categories: lead generation, booking moves, servicing moves, customer service, and accounting, and categorize them in those, right? Get everything in there. That's all the fundamentals of your business that it needs to run daily. That stuff right there, if you spend time focusing on that alone, that's where you start increasing profits. That's where you start to have a smoother running business. That's where you start to have happier customers, better reviews, right? When you focus in on just the fundamentals and you allow yourself to block out the idea of expansion or business development or these other shiny objects that, maybe somebody's like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing this thing and I'm doing this new little hack. And you say, wait. Before I venture off into all of this, am I taking care of my core business of the 5 fundamentals, right? So again, he takes his list and puts it into those categories to see what fits there, right? Because your goal before you start, growing, before you start expanding, before you start scaling, franchising, opening up additional locations, moving from local moves to long distance moves, your goal needs to be that your business can run without you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Your business needs to run without you. That's why we talk so much about processes and systems and getting all that in place, right?
Now, if I'm somebody who is, like this guy, he has a list of things he wants to implement and he's really fired up about it. Like, won't that kind of kill your enthusiasm a little bit if you're like, you got a bunch of stuff you want to do, but you're like, okay, I got to slow down. Like, it seems like less exciting to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, it is. It is, right? It's like being forced to finish your vegetables as a kid before you're allowed to go get ice cream, right? You want the ice cream, but what's really good for you is to finish your vegetables first, right? So setting up the fundamentals is like eating your vegetables, forcing yourself to do it if you don't want to do it so that you can feel good about then going and having the ice cream. And the reason that happens, Chris, is that, we think that we're all over the place, right? Like we think like, oh, I'm here, I'm there. But the reality is we've got different versions of ourself in our mind that are competing to take the lead, right? To take the steering wheel and lead us to where we need to go. So as a business owner, right, you've got the CEO, right? The CEO is making the big decisions, looking at P&Ls, strategizing, thinking about where we need to go, where we need to take the business, what direction we want to head in. They're also constantly thinking of new ideas, right? New strategies. But then you need to step into the role of manager, right, in your mind and say, okay, how do I take all these ideas, organize them like what we're talking about now? How do I take them, organize them in a way to where, I don't have to slow down what my CEO self is saying and doing and wants to implement. I don't have to slow that stream of thoughts because you never want to slow the stream of thoughts of creativity. You've got ideas, great. Keep them coming, right? Keep them coming and put them somewhere. Keep a list of everything that's going. That's where he's at. He feels overwhelmed. He's got this big list, right? So then he needs to go into manager mode, right? Put his manager hat on and say, okay, I've got this list. Now, what's going to get me to my goals? I can only do one thing at a time. How do I prioritize this and set it up so that I can be effective? And then from manager, now you go into doer, right? Now you actually have to do this stuff. And what happens is, if you've ever felt like, you started to do something and you started to talk about something and you just got yourself all wound up and didn't really get anything done, it's because each one of those versions of ourselves needs room to breathe. It needs room to do its own thing separately. And what happens when we get overwhelmed is that those 3 are typically competing they're all, this might sound crazy to some people, right? But you've got these like three different voices going on in your head, right? The CEO self is like, no, we need to be doing this, right? People think because they're always changing their mind and they're flip-flopping on things that there's something wrong with them. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's that they have to kind of separate out these three selves and say, look, the CEO is having this big vision. The manager is like, look, we need order. We need to structure this thing. We need to, figure out what to do first, what to do second. And the doer is like, guys, let me just go start getting stuff done. You're over there yapping. I just want to do. I just want to take action. So what happens is somebody comes up with an idea, right? Then they'll spend a brief amount of time managing it and figure out like what the move is to set it up. But they want to jump right into doing. They want to jump right into doing and just getting stuff done. So, a really important technique to start to learn is like how to allow yourself to know when the CEO version of you, the manager version of you, and the doer version of you is needed in that particular moment. Right now, I'm the doer, right? Like I'm here, I'm doing this with you.
Yeah.
Right? Where the CEO version that thought of, okay, let's set up the podcast. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to help people. This is how we're going to serve them, right? That was just a lot of conceptual stuff. Then I had to put on the manager hat and said, okay, how do we orchestrate this so that we could be streamlined, so that we can, effectively get these episodes done and it doesn't take us, all kinds of time, and we set up the processes and the systems for how we do it, right? How we get everything over to the editors, how we get it out to everybody else, how we send out the emails. And then it's like, then it's doer, right? Got to show up and just do it. That makes sense?
It makes it seem less overwhelming, which is, this guy was having an issue with feeling overwhelmed. But when you break it down like that, it doesn't seem overwhelming at all. You just kind of have to. Are you like literally creating time for each one of these people to do their thing? Like you give the creator some time to really visualize, and then you give the doer some time to get it done, and like how does that?
Yeah, I mean, something that and a lot of people, like when you think about routines and how you structure things, a lot of people think that they'll hear somebody on a podcast, or they'll hear me or somebody else talk about, this is my process for doing this and this is my system for doing that. But sometimes your system and your process changes, and you need to try different stuff to see what works, right? So one way of doing it, and one way that I've done for a long time is, I'll have certain days where, like Friday's my CEO day, right? Like Friday's all CEO stuff, right? Like big picture, reviewing numbers, strategy, vision, overseeing. I'm not doing, I'm not really managing. Right. Then there's other days like today is I'm doer. Like we're recording some podcasts, we're doing some other videos, and then there's other days where I'm manager, right? Like managers when I'm really, just managing the team, right? Seeing what's going on, checking on progress, having our, weekly meetings, stuff like that, managing. So, yes, I think you don't necessarily have to create a separate day for each one of these, although that's a really helpful place to be, because the way that when you start to, like when you wake up, like when I wake up on Fridays and I know it's CEO day, I'm carrying myself a little bit differently that day.
Okay.
I'm feeling a little bit different. I'm feeling that CEO vibe, if you will, right? Whereas, manager day, my mind's like, okay, let's look at everything that's got to get done. Let's figure out who's doing what. It's just a different mindset. And, one of the things that really overwhelms people as well is when they shift gears, right? So anytime you shift gears between one task you're doing and another task, it's hard enough to switch gears. Like, for example, if we ended this podcast and then I had to go put together, a presentation or, write some emails or something like that, that's a gear shift. Like my mind is here, and this is like, this is the type of thing I'm doing today. That's why I want to shoot videos today. I want to be doing this all today because I could be in one gear all day. And so you don't have to do it all day, but you've got to be conscious of, okay, if I'm going to start off with a sales meeting in the morning where I'm getting my team fired up and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then after that, I have to go directly into reading some contracts, or, you have to be able to know how well you adapt and you adjust to that gear shift. So, you might do half a day as CEO, and then in the afternoon you go to manager, and then, you have time blocked out on your calendar for the things you need to do, and that you're being the doer. So it's the first step is really acknowledging when each one of those characters, if you will, right? You've got your CEO, you got your manager, you got your doer. Who's required to show up right now, right? If you just take a look at your calendar for the next week, right, or what you have going on, or each day as you step into each new thing, who's needed? Is it the CEO? Is it the manager? Or is it the doer that's needed in that moment? Does that make sense?
That is cool. That's interesting that you could break down your list with maybe a different tag or a different label, and then that's really cool. It's a way to organize it.
I thought I was crazy at first, and then like when I first started teaching this stuff, I was like, and people were like, "Oh yeah, that works. It works. I did it. It works." I was like, "Okay, good," because I thought maybe I just had voices in my head, and so yeah, try that. It definitely helps. That's what's going on when you feel super overwhelmed, is that each one of those voices has their own opinion about what should be done next.
For someone like, I know there's people out there who kind of thrive on, that the weight of having stuff to do and being overwhelmed. Like, for somebody like that, what would you say to them to get them to kind of, be able to separate it all out? Because some people, they like the chaos,
Yeah, and that used to be me. It used to be me, and it was like when I knew I had stuff to get done, right? I wasn't even thinking about like which, the three versions, right? It was just sad stuff to get done. I found myself, and I realized it, for the first step to making any change is first being aware and realizing what's happening, right? So like, the best thing you could do as a business owner is start to learn how to just be self-aware and look at yourself objectively, and like why am I doing that? Is that helpful? And so I used to wake up, and it was like my whole, like from the time I woke up to the time I got to work, I was just like winding myself up, right? Like I feel like I needed to wind myself up so that I could just charge through the day, with energy and momentum and all of that. And that's how I learned to get stuff done. So it took a while to break that habit, right? Once I started to pay more attention to my well-being and, understanding the mind and how the mind works, I realized that whole time period I was in what's called fight or flight, which is a fear response from, caveman days, right? It's like, when fear pops up, you're either ready for a fight or you're ready for flight, like you're ready to run.
Yeah.
Right. And that a lot of people are in that place like daily trying to get stuff done. And for me, it worked, right? It was like, hey, man, this is all right. I'm getting stuff done. I'm building the business. This is happening. So it became kind of a go-to strategy without realizing it. It felt like that's what I needed to do in order to get stuff done. Because if I didn't wind myself up like that, I might just want to chill. I might just want to relax. Right. So it's like I had this one side where it's like, all right, I get myself going, almost like you're winding up a little toy soldier or something, right? And it's like start marching forward.
Yeah.
And the other side of me was like, man, I just want to chill out. Let me go lay in the pool or something, right? Like I don't. So it felt like those were the two options. And so over time, being able to kind of realize that fight or flight state that I was in and get myself wound up to go tackle the day, it was part of what wasn't allowing me to get to that next level, right? It was part of what wasn't allowing me to step into like that moving CEO mindset we talked about in a few episodes ago, right? Because as much as it was helping me get things going and get things off the ground, that next level needed me to be more at peace, more grounded, and focused on like feeling good, right? Making decisions from like a place of, certainty and clarity, as opposed to, I need to be wound up or I'm not going to get stuff done. So it became like a balance.
Okay. So at some point, you became conscious of this and you decided that, okay, I'm going to stop running around crazy with all of this, chaos going on. Like, how, like, when did, I don't know where to go. First of all, when did you make that decision? And then secondly, what do you think would have happened had you not made that realization?
Well, first of all, it's something that is not, it's not like I just flipped the switch and it's on. I mean, I still deal with it, right? I still, it's a natural response that I, it's a habit that I learned, and I got rewarded for it early on, right? So it was like there was that reward there. So it's still deeply ingrained, but I've come to learn that that I don't need that energy. I don't need that, like, oh, we got to make this happen now, right? We got to make this happen now. We got to strike while the iron's hot now. Like, I don't need that energy to be effective. Matter of fact, it actually makes me not see opportunities and not be able to be on top of my business. So, it came to me in that whole, I would say right around that Great Recession period was when, I got my first coach and I started to really get into self-development and started to learn how the mind worked. And I got so fascinated with, like, wow, it's not about, the outside world and that's the way it is. It's about how I'm perceiving the world and how I choose to operate within it. It was in that period, but it's something that I still struggle with, and, I have to remind myself, like, look, the most important thing is that you feel good, right? Like, there's I used to feel that stress was just, came with the territory, right? That it just came with the territory, and that it helped fuel the growth. And to some extent, it's true. But I just made a decision that, I don't want that type of growth. Like, I don't, if I know I could get much further if I just stayed in that mode all day, but I could probably drop dead too along the way.
Oh, okay. So you'll get results. You'll get to where you want to go.
But it's not profit and thrive. It's not profit and thrive. It's just, go for, be so focused and just go for the money and just go for the goals and go for the accolades, but you're not thriving in your life. And to me, it felt like an evolution of, like, look, I did that. Okay. I made money doing that. Okay. Well, now let me challenge myself to slow it down and continue to build a business and continue to make money, but go slower while doing it. And, listen, you got to, I mean, I if I heard myself saying this 10 years ago, I don't know, what I would say or agree 15 years ago, but you got to slow down a little bit and enjoy the process, right? And, like, feel good on a daily basis, right? Like, just having gone through being in that mode and reaching certain levels and get into those levels and be like, all right, is this it? It's like, you know what? Now I want to do it at a different pace. So getting back to, feeling like you're never going to get it all done. Like, I've accepted that I'm never going to get it all done. I've got great ideas, amazing ideas. Like, people, and people will always give you ideas and be like, if you share an idea, you should be doing that. You should be doing that. But the reality is, if you go chase this and you go chase that and you're going to get nowhere. Right. So does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like for someone who's overwhelmed, this could be like, if somebody's got this whirlwind happening, like, where do they start? Because after you've conditioned yourself to operate like that for so long, it's got to be tough to put the brakes on.
Yeah, because what happens is, the ego starts to fear that you're going to lose all your edge, right? That's what happens. Is it's like super scared that you're just going to lose your edge. Like, that was what happened to me. That's what got me to where, my first level of success. So to try to undo that is huge. So it just really starts with saying, you know what? What's the alternative, right? Like, I used to, like, my way of slowing down used to be I'd get sick, right? Like, just a cold or whatever. And then I'd almost be relieved to where I could just, like, chill out for a few days at home. And that was the only time like I would give myself time to slow down early on. Right.
It's a pretty good
Where-
sign you need to slow down when you're getting sick.
Yeah. So it was, if that's you, if you're listening and you're just like constantly stressed out and you feel burnt out, I'm trying to show you that there's a different way to go about it. If you think about, if you think about gears, right? You're driving a stick shift, and let's say it's like 1 through 5 or 1 through 6. And you're always, you always have it at 5, or you always have it at 6, and you're just going. What I've found is that for me to take it down from that 5 and bring it into like a 3, it actually unlocks more potential for me and what I see. And it's like that sweet spot of being able to still keep moving forward, but enjoy the ride, right? And I like that sounds so cliche, but it's like listen, having done it, having made millions in the moving business and done it early on, it's really the way to go. It's and it's hard. It's a discipline, right? Because default, we are stressed out. We get taught to be stressed out. Our society is just stressed out. Everybody walks around stressed out. As a business owner, it's like a badge of honor. How are things going? Oh man, it's crazy. Like it's so busy. I got no time. I'm just working, and we walk around like that's a badge of honor, right? And it's not. It's basically a early indication that you're going to have a heart attack. Right?
Is that serious? So you're saying, you're not saying don't be ambitious.
No, you got to be ambitious, but you just got to find your way of settling into a place where you could still drive forward. You know what I mean? You're not stopping and going, which was happening to me. Like I would go so fast, and then like I would get, catch a cold or something, and I'd have to stop for a few days and then go again. Where now it's just, it's more like smooth and steady. And there's certain times, imagine you're on the road, you're driving, and there's certain times where maybe you got to, gear up and accelerate to get past a situation.
Yeah.
But then settle back in. Right? There are things that come along that cause that to happen. I mean, last summer I had a baby, right? I had my daughter last summer, and we had a new course coming out. We had a new seminar coming up, and I had to put it in full gear to like get ahead of all that to make sure that I had everything ready when it needed to be ready. But then my mind got so wound up that I had to like remind myself to downshift. Right? Because if not, what happens is you just get burnt out, and then you're not moving. You're done. You pulled over to the side, your engine's smoking, and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. How does somebody know if they are overwhelmed?
I mean, you feel it, right? You just feel like if you feel like you've got too much to do and you don't have enough time, that's overwhelm, right? That's overwhelm. Like too much to do, not enough time. And that's the reality is like, accept that. There is not enough time. And the reason, if you've got too many things you want to accomplish and not enough time, it's because you have a creative mind. It's because your mind, like I finally came to the realization that my mind is producing ideas at such a rapid pace that my physical body can't keep up with them. It's like you're not going to win that race. You know what I mean? Let your mind go. Right? Don't shut down the stream of information. Let it go. Capture those ideas. Keep a list of all the ideas or all the things you need to do. We'll talk in a minute about how to organize it all, and how to start executing it. But then just say like, you know what? I'm come to terms with what I could really get accomplished, and I'm just going to pick and choose the things that are going to make the biggest impact. And some of them I may get to, and some of them I may never get to.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that I see that prevents people from succeeding to the levels that they want to get to is that they're chasing down too many things at once.
Okay. So is there a magic number, like a sweet spot?
So what I recommend is that you take every quarter of the year. Okay, so I mean, you know this. We work with a group, and we hold them accountable for all this stuff. But every quarter of the year, you pick 3 big objectives per quarter. Okay, so there's 4 quarters in the year, 3 big objectives. That's 12 things in a year, right? And some people look at that and be like, man, I could get hundreds of things done. And you will naturally, right? If you first focus on your fundamentals, right? Lead generation, booking moves, servicing moves, making sure your customers are happy, and accounting. That's your core business. If you're moving, most of our listeners are moving company owners. If that's your core business, make sure that's all on point. And there's going to be things that just have to get done as part of all that day to day, right? Day to day. So your focus is, hey, how could I set this up so I could go away for a year and this thing's going to run smooth without me? That's like the real test to know, do you have it fine-tuned? Are your processes in place? If you feel confident to do that. Once that's there, it's like, okay, all these big ideas that you have, and I'm all for growth. You want to franchise hundreds of companies? Great. You want to open a location in every city in the country? Great. Like whatever you want to do, great. But you've got to be able to make sure you're in the right gear. And sometimes having the highest gear with the pedal all the way to the ground is not what's going to get you there. So pick 3 big objectives per quarter. Okay. And focus on those. So that basically gives you 3 months to work on 3 big things. So every quarter, before the quarter comes, sit down and just look at this is the simplest way to do it, right? We can get into more advanced strategy, but let's just talk about a simple way to get this done, which is look at your whole list and say, okay, this new quarter is coming up. What 3 things can I work on that will make the biggest impact right now for me achieving my ultimate goal of where I want to go? Right. And so what are some big objectives? Big objectives could be an income objective or a revenue objective, right? Maybe you say, I want to get up to $200,000 a month in local move revenue. Or maybe one is, I want to get our monthly storage recurring revenue to $35,000 a month. Right? Like wherever you're at, you might, maybe for somebody, it's like $6,000 a month, whatever it might be. A big objective might be to hire a operations manager, right? A big objective could be to implement a new CRM. It could be to buy 2 new trucks. It could be to implement a mover training program, right? So things that, if you could only work on 3 things outside of your fundamentals, and your objectives might also fall into those fundamental categories too, right? But if you could pick 3 big things, what would they be? And then make sure every single week you're moving towards completing those, right? And you've got 3 months to get all 3 of them done. And so what this does is it removes all the distraction. Distraction is one of the biggest killers to people achieving their goals, right? They think they need to be doing 10 million different things when in reality, there's a handful of things that will make the biggest impact. Like when I work with private clients, they come with the same kind of dilemma. I've got all this stuff I want to do. And almost every single time the conversation comes, it's like, no, take all that off the table and let's just focus on this, this, and this.
Even
that's it.
Even if it's a golden opportunity that's lingering out there that if you don't act now, you might miss.
Yeah, but what is a golden opportunity, right? Like there's so much. It's like very few people have the ability to really recognize a golden opportunity. What's really happening is the mind wants something new. The mind wants to move on to what's next. The mind's bored with the fundamentals. Remember, the fundamentals are that plain plate of vegetables that you just have to keep eating, right? That big opportunities like that, awesome butter cake with ice cream and, like the whole, right? The whole shebang there, like the whole big dessert. And so, yes, there are opportunities, but if you go chasing down opportunities, which most times are just shiny objects, right? They're just these things that, wow, look at that. And it's just luring you off course. That is the curse of a dabbler. That, right? Somebody that's committed to mastery is focused in on where they're going. They realize there's going to be a lot of distraction along the way. They realize there's going to be a lot of opportunity along the way, right? But they're focused in on what's important, and they don't let, this shiny object and that shiny object and this thing they saw on Facebook and that thing they heard somebody works for somebody else, like, make them just go skirt and turn around and take a detour when they know the destination of where they're headed, right? And so, if that thing comes along, if that opportunity comes along, right, you want to be able to put it on your list. And if it really, really is that golden opportunity, sure, you can then take one of your 3 big objectives and move it or take it off the list and replace it with this new one, right? But if you find yourself, you got to look at your own track record, okay? Because there's a lot of geniuses out there. There's a lot of people with a lot of great ideas, and there's a lot of people that are able to spot those opportunities. But there's opportunity and then there's execution. So if your track record is like, hey, I just like, ooh, what's that new thing? And you're not really like getting ahead, I'm telling you, it's easier to pass on some of these golden opportunities and just stay focused on those fundamentals in front of you and those 3 big objectives that you know are moving you towards it. It's a shift from where your excitement used to come from, was from these new things, right? This new opportunity where it takes a little while and you have to pass through this uncomfortable place of going from constantly looking at the new and the exciting and the shiny objects and going through this place of what seems like boredom because you're focused in on just the fundamentals. You're focused in on 3 big objectives for the next quarter, right? And your mind wants to basically do what, Netflix and social media and all that stuff tries to get your mind to do. Next thing, right? And that stuff's actually exercising your mind to want that more.
Right. You're conditioned.
And where you won't experience the satisfaction of the fine-tuning the fundamentals, working on your 3 big objectives until you pass through this place of real uncertainty. Same thing if like you're used to just eating sugary foods and now all of a sudden you're like, no, focus in on just eating the vegetables. Like, it's going to suck for a while until you finally start feeling how good you feel based on that. It's the same thing because, when you're stuck on new, and now you move into, okay, like nice and steady, get the fundamentals on point, fine tune this, tweak this, improve this. Let's take 3 big objectives. Let's do them and let's do them right. Let's follow all the way through. Let's not just hire that person. Let's hire that person and train that person and make sure they know exactly what they need to do, right? Once you start doing things like that, then you'll feel the satisfaction because you'll see your business change. And what you thought was not possible, the more money, the more time, the more freedom, the less stress, all that stuff that you're like, yeah, that's just, you'll start to feel it. And then you'll go, oh, okay. That's why I'm focused on the fundamentals. That's why I choose to eat my vegetables over eating the ice cream.
Okay. So trust in that process, especially at first, it could be overwhelming to try to not be overwhelmed. So
yeah. And then listen, again, keep the ideas coming.
Yeah.
Right. Shiny object comes, great. Put it in its place on the list. Right.
Talk about how you organize that. You had mentioned something about, you have a process for your ideas and what you do with them.
I mean, we teach a system in moving CEO business programs called OMS, Strategic Execution System. It's those of you that are in the program, you know what I'm saying, but it's basically taking where you want to go, right, in your business, in your life, from a 20-year standpoint, and then breaking that down to your quarterly objectives, and then taking your quarterly objectives and breaking those down into your weekly action plan, right? We give everybody in the program what's called the top 3 planner, right? So it's like each week, these are your top 3 objectives that you're working on. What are you doing to move those things forward on top of your normal daily functions?
Yeah.
Right. And so once you establish that, right, the easiest, let's keep it simple. The easiest way to do it is just, have a list of everything you want to get done. Every 3 months, every quarter, look at it and go, okay, I accomplished these last 3 things. What are the next, right? A lot of people will try to plan out the whole year. What's the next? What's the next? What's the next? It's, unless you have it like really strategically set up, it's easier to just pull up the list each quarter and go, okay, let me pick 3 more things that will make the biggest impact now. Right? And then you block time on your calendar for current objectives, right? You want to, if you could, the more time on your calendar that you could work on current objectives, meaning you have let's say you go and you're like, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 to noon or 9 to noon, whatever time you could spare, you carve out that time and you just put current objectives. And in that time, you're just working on the current objectives, right? This is the stuff that's like over and above those fundamentals that's taking you to that next level. So, again, it all starts to come together when you've got your processes in place, when you've delegated to your people, when they know exactly what to do. That starts to free you up. When you free up, you now have more time that you can add blocks on your calendar that says current objectives. Now your current objectives can be bigger, right? They could be bigger and more in depth because you have the time to actually execute them.
That's awesome. So let's recap. We've got, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you got to introduce yourself to the 3 different people that are living in your mind, the CEO, the manager, and the doer. Do we give them names? Are they 3 distinct characters?
I mean, you could, that'd be cool. Give them each a different name. No, just, you've got the CEO, you've got the manager, and you've got the doer, right? And it's just a matter of deciding who needs to show up in this moment.
Yeah.
Right. And if you find yourself getting totally overwhelmed in any moment, like let's say you're just in between tasks, right? You move from one thing to the next thing, you're in your email and you just feel that feeling come over you of like, what should I do next? I don't even know. Like, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. Take a step back, put the manager hat on and get yourself organized. Because the doer is going to say, no, just pick that next thing and just do that. Pick that next thing and do that, right? That's one voice that's going on. The CEO is going to be like, screw all this. We got more important stuff to do. We got big stuff that we need to be working on. This is not important. Why are we doing this? I should have somebody else doing this. Tell them both, they're not needed right now. And let the manager show up and just get yourself organized for a few minutes, right? 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? And figure out what's, this could be at any moment during any day, right? At any time. And, come up with your plan and then keep moving forward.
Okay. And then set your quarterly objectives.
Well, also make sure that you are fine-tuning your fundamentals, right? Get that going.
Okay.
Then set your quarterly objectives. Just pick 3.
Yeah.
Just pick 3. So people will say, well, 3 is not a lot. Then pick bigger stuff, like big impact stuff.
That's good.
Like stuff that like if you spent all your extra time working on that and you pulled it off and you got those 3 big things done, you're really moving the needle. Not just like incrementally, like you're moving the needle.
Yeah. And then develop your own system for making the time to get those things done, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Moving CEO Business Program, by the way, if you want to check that out, if you want to learn basically everything you need to do to take your moving company to the next level, just go to movingceo.com. All the details are there. And that's inside of one of those programs that you get as part of the program. We teach the OMS Strategic Execution System. But essentially, take your list every month, pick what's the most, what's going to make the biggest impact, pick 3 of them, and then have time blocked on your calendar where you're just working on that stuff. And then the next thing is just keep a list of everything else and be totally okay if it never gets done. I mean, I have a list in my project management tool that I use. It's called Someday Maybe, right? It's like the stuff that's not on my current radar in the next year, the stuff that I'm like, this isn't going to happen in the next year, which those will be in their own separate projects. It just gets thrown into a folder called Someday Maybe.
Wow.
And it's like, you know, you can review that once in a while and pick some gems out of there. You know, it might be 3 years from now, and that amazing golden opportunity that you thought you had, now it's the time for it, right? Timing's a big deal too. You know, people think they get a great idea, they need to act on it right away. That used to be one of my things too. Like, I used to take pride in that. That was a badge of honor, like speed of implementation. Ooh, I just thought of it. Let me make it happen. But not at the expense of your fundamentals, not at the expense of your current objectives, right? So be okay knowing that everything has timing, and when ideas come to you, great, you don't have to act on them right away. And then be totally okay with the fact that you're never going to get it all done, right? If I was looking at my Someday Maybe list, if I was looking at and I was trying to figure out when I'm going to do all of it, yeah, I'd be super stressed out. You know, I'd be super stressed out. And it's just a matter of saying, okay, there's a time and there's a place, or maybe there's not a time and a place. And it's one of the things that happens as people start to capture their ideas, right? Because a lot of times people don't write down their stuff, right? So, you know, when you start to write it down and when you start to keep a list, and that list starts to build because you physically can't keep up with how fast your mind's going on ideas,
yeah,
you could be overwhelmed. So you've got to be able to accept the fact that you will never get it all done. But as long as you're making good progress on the things that matter, it's okay that not every little item gets a check next to it.
There it is. That's the magical cure for overwhelm.
That's it. That's it. I think that pretty much covers it.
That's really good. That's really,
yeah.
Appreciate your input.
So yeah, implement that stuff. Listen, guys, this, I know we talk a lot about, you know, your mindset and, you know, how to approach your role as moving CEO and how to run your business. And that's because it is all one, right? There's you've got this whole podcast, go through and listen. There's marketing, there's sales, there's customer service. But this is the stuff that will really help you make that adjustment that you need to get yourself to that next level. So I hope you enjoy it. If so, leave me a review, leave me a comment down below. If you have any questions at all, that's where we're getting all these topics. We're getting these topics from people that are sending in questions. The easiest way to do that is send me a DM on Instagram. It's at Louis Massaro on Instagram, at LouisMassaro on Instagram. And until we see you next time, go out there every single day, profit in your business and thrive in your life. We'll see you later. Be safe. Talk to you soon. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if you're really ready to take your moving company to that next level, watch that video right there. And until I see you in the next one, go out there every single day, profit in your business and thrive in your life.